Yeah, so welcome back to another episode. Today, I'm really excited for this one. If you want to learn how to grow your business, then Lincoln's definitely the man. He's grown from 7 employees to 200. His company is Custom Heat. So thank you for coming on today.
Cheers, mate. Let me just get my notepad. I need to take some notes on this one because I'm still at 1.
Oh, we didn't introduce ourselves. Abigail just told us that earlier. I'm Keiran.
Yeah, and I'm Pete. Tradie Tales. This is Off the Job, if you didn't know already.
Yeah, thank you for coming down, Lincoln. Like I said, I'm really excited for this. I love anything business. But so where do we start?
So my story starts with an apprenticeship. So it's a family business, Custom Heat. It's my mum and dad's company. Started in 1980, so it's our 45th year. And I went myself through college. I did about 4 years, did my gas, oil, LPG, invented Part P, manufacturers training courses, all those kind of things that you do at that age. And around 15 years ago or so, when I was 24, my dad wasn't very well, and he left. What he actually said he's going to take a 2-week break from Custom Heat. He'll see me in 2 weeks, but he never came back. So
my dad done that with a milk. I'm joking, he didn't. He didn't. He was going to take a 2-week break and come back, but he never did. So we had around 7 employees at the time. It's all private domestic work. It's work that we generally find ourselves. And then over the last sort of 15 years, we've grown from a team of 7. We went to a team of nearly 200. We're not at that now, by the way. We're kind of up and down. Last year was a really challenging year, as I think it was for a lot of people and manufacturers. But yeah, generally we've gone out and tried to find volumes of work, private work that we can control the margin on, control the customer's journey on. We did a short sprint with a bit of contracting, and that's the part of it that didn't work for us very well. And that's the part we lost last year. So predominantly now, 95% of everything we do is stuff that we generate ourselves, stuff that we price ourselves. I think if you had a quote from us for a boiler, we'd probably be the most expensive. And if boiler servicing charge me, we're in London now, so it's probably more, but we charge £120 for gas and £150 for oil. So we're not aimed at the cheap market, we're aimed at the higher end market. Hourly rates on jobs are 110 plus VAT an hour for our gas engineers. Predominantly built up of gas engineers. There's also plumbers, electricians, 10 or so apprentices, and then a couple of offices, one in the Midlands and one in the Southwest. In-house HR and that kind of stuff, accounts, marketing and that kind of thing.
Yeah, so at 24 then, you wasn't, in your mind, I suppose you wasn't ready to take the business over. Your dad sort of just, couldn't come back. So how was that at 24 then, and what were the challenges in the early days? Did you have like an ambition to grow it big, or what was?
No, it was odd because some of the other engineers I worked with as an apprentice, they used to say, "Oh, one day this is going to be yours," but it never sinks into your mind. It's one of them things. It never just clicked in my head that I'd ever run Custom Heat as a business. As soon as my dad sort of moved on, my focus was just it was a recession, so 2008, 2009. So there wasn't a lot of work about. I think business was suffering a little bit, which is no reflection of my dad. I think it was just, we were in the minus figures and things weren't particularly brilliant financially. We were insolvent, actually. And I think the focus was I spent a few years, I made so many mistakes quoting. I'd go out and quote things, and I was working with engineers that I had a lot of trust would just continue to work, 3-day jobs are 3-day jobs, but things really started to get a bit wayward. You quote a 3-day job, it takes 5 days, and you repeat that process several times, and the negative impact of that kind of thing happening was detrimental to the business. And I never forget sitting down with an accountant who said, "You're insolvent. If you need to change what you're doing." So it's when they started to look at hourly rates and what we're charging, and we actually tidied the team up a little bit and kind of got it back on the straight and narrow. We started to make a bit of money, which was good. We paid off our debts and sat in a good position. That was probably 2011 kind of time. And then from there, we kind of grew sort of more engineers, and we've had a lot of challenges and stories with taking people on, and the things that come off the back of interviews, which I've got a couple of stories about. We grew a team, grew more vans. I think there was a lot of COVID winners, 2020, 2021. There was a lot of work out there at that point. People weren't spending money on holidays and other things. They were putting it into their boilers or their bathrooms. So we definitely benefited from COVID.
And I think 24 we've probably seen off the edge of the COVID boom. I mean, looking at job numbers, I mean, at peak we were completing around 8,000 service visits a month. And we
That's a lot of jobs to manage, isn't it? Yeah.
8,000 service visits a month.
Yeah, so total jobs.
I do 8.
Yeah, and then boiler numbers. I mean, we did peak at over 2,000 boilers a year, but with the lower numbers that we work with at the minute, like this year, we'll do around 1,000. Predominantly gas boilers, oil, LPG, and now heat pumps. Interestingly, there's quite a demand and uptake on heat pumps since the grant has gone from 5,000 to 7,500. It seems to have been quite an uplift on that too. So, yeah, so my process has been from apprenticeship through to 24-year-old learning a business, getting a lot of things wrong, and then sort of trying to build a business that's structured in a way that makes money and finds the right type of customer. I think I've seen you guys before, and you were talking about like rates, and I see it on Gas Chat sometimes where they say about how much should you charge for this, and how much it always makes me laugh, because I'm like, what? You should be the person that knows what you charge, because it's only you that knows your overheads, how many hours a week you want to work, how many days a year you want to work, how many holidays you want to go on. So that all forms like your hourly rate and how much you should.
Well, that's what I've told him. I said that to him before, and you said, yeah, but it shouldn't be on your class.
You can't just make a number up. Like,
you
if
can't
you
make a number
yeah.
up.
Yeah, well, it's an easy way of working it out. You can almost do it on a piece of like a fag packet. And I think it's one of the early things that I learned where I started to structure our prices. So we had 7 engineers. I know they'd work 40 hours a week. Well, actually, they'd do 32 because I allowed 8 hours for recalls and problems. And 32-hour weeks based on 46 weeks of the year because of sickness and holidays and bits and pieces. And you know how many working hours you've got a year. And as you simply go onto a bank statement and look how much your fuel is and work your monthly out on that, your insurance is, and you factor in all these different costs that you get, and you get to an end point where you know that you've got X amount of engineers that work X amount of hours, and you've got to generate X amount of money per hour to pay that figure. And then you can start to structure a bit more. Well, actually, I want to earn a bit more, so I'm going to add a bit more into the bottom line. And that helped a lot. And I spent quite a period of time quoting. So I spent about 10 years quoting with Custom Heat. And I find it interesting, a lot of plumbers or gas engineers will say, they're quite interested in what other people have quoted. I've never been interested in what other people have quoted, because I always see us, a lot of people don't know our business, but the people that have looked into us, that are looking for a quote from us, will see we've got, say, 4,000 5-star reviews. We've got a local office, we've got branded vans, we've got professional kit, all of our marketing is very professional. We get companies to come in and actually do all the videoing and all that kind of stuff. So what's been really important for us is how we brand ourselves to our customer, and that customer then in turn is prepared to look at us slightly differently to everybody else. Remember a story when I went to quote a job, and the customer says, I've had a quote from so-and-so, which was another business in the town. I was thinking in my head, I really don't care. I do not care who's quoted. I don't care what the price is. I don't care if they're 10 pence. I'm going to be like $4,000 or whatever I was. Hourly rate times number of hours I thought it was going to take, plus the bits, plus the margin for discrepancies. And then you'd end up with your price of £4,000. And, the customer will be like, well, you're £800 more than so-and-so. And the amount of times customers will say, I want to go ahead with you still, because they've got the confidence, they know your business.
Some people want a good job,
Yeah, but I've always found actually telling a customer you're going to do a good job is probably the worst thing you can do, because telling somebody...
you shouldn't have to reinforce it.
It's like a band. You think a band, what you sell with the comedies, if the first thing you did, you stood on stage and went, I'm really good, listen to me. Yeah. It's not the way that you get it across. You get it across with actually how you deliver what you do. And if you do that really well, then people will want to come and see you. Comedians are, if somebody may pay more for one of the top ones because they're the way that they do it and the experience they give. And it's the same with plumbing. There are different tiers of the way people come across. People that work out the van that will answer off a mobile phone, customers might not perceive as much value as a company that has got much slicker marketing or better branding, all these thousands of reviews, or they know there's an office locally, and all these things that strike confidence in people. That's predominantly, as I say, so talking about lead gen. I'm waffling on a bit, so you'll have to just jump in if you. Talking about how we went from feeding 7 engineers to then feeding 200 engineers to feeding a lot less than that now. We're like probably in the middle. So we spent a lot of time with Google Ads, which unless it's a really peak time, like the middle of winter when the demand's incredibly high, I just generally wouldn't bother with Google Ads, for the reason that at Google, when you place an ad on Google, your competition is British Gas, who everybody knows and partially trusts, and people like Box and other online providers who have got more reviews and their website's better because they've spent millions on it, and that's their whole business. So you're actually trying to fight for creating
So you
awareness.
can pay the most money, yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is, when a customer goes on your site, if you've got less reviews than Box or whoever, and you've got you're not as known as British Gas, well, then why would they choose you unless you're the cheapest? So placing ads on Google, in my opinion, unless you're the cheapest or can get your message across really well, which is quite difficult, then it's pointless, because the conversion rate, we had a data attribution report made so that we knew every penny that we put into Google, we knew exactly where it went. We were recorded phone lines and everything was tracked. And yeah, generally I just wouldn't bother with it. Facebook's the worst. Lead generation companies, like, I won't say their name, but there's lead generation companies out there, they're probably the lowest of the low. So we found actually generating leads for like trying to cater for 7 engineers to 50 to 70 to 100 has all been primarily around branding and organic exposure. So where customers will naturally be looking for something, they'll find you in several different forms. It might not necessarily be web, and the confidence of what they see, for the professionalism, the way that it's structured, the way that it's worded, the way that the trust signals are there with your trust pilot and your thingy, then make somebody buy into you as a brand. So we find conversion rate is not the highest, but then again, we are doing a lot more than we were doing years ago. But we're maintaining margin, which is the most important thing. Like last year, 2024, was quite a challenging year. You know, we'd grown, and some parts of the business hadn't grown with that growth, and that showed, because we had no awareness really of our finances. In fact, my wife joined. She's a chartered psychologist, spent 8 years learning that trade, and I've managed to steer her. And the difference of somebody with very high levels of intelligence. No disrespect to the trade, I'm one of them. I had no GCSEs, but generally speaking, you go into builder's merchant, they're all like licking the windows, aren't they? Like there's an element of that going on. And I was in the, I'm the same, but actually dealing with somebody that's actually academically incredibly intelligent, and the level and the dynamic that brings to the business is, it's so difficult to then not try and find that kind of setup and those kind of people. So I know she's my wife, and I'm not being biased. It's true. She's got hold of the financial aspect of the business, and
Yeah, because that's a key part, isn't it? So did you have anyone financially before that? There must be someone.
Yeah, we did. I think because we'd grown so much, that area got left behind a little bit, and it was always in almost like in some aspects like 2 years behind. I know we have to file our accounts every year, but like some areas of that part of our finances were quite far behind. It was the bit that we struggled with the most. But now we're reporting in front as opposed to behind. I really don't like the idea of reacting to problems, especially in other areas. I've always been proactive with problems. Like with the managers that we've got at the minute, we've got a real focus on actually looking at a week, and at the start of a day, maybe a Tuesday, not the end of the day, because things will run over and you end up not getting to them, but at the start of a day, like a Tuesday morning, having an area of proactive time. I used to find it really helpful on like a Saturday night. This was years ago. Wife would be watching Netflix or whatever the hell they watch, and I'd sit with my laptop and I'd sit thinking about how I can automate something or change something, or I'd go onto our website, for example, and think, right, I'm a customer. How can I streamline the customer's process so that they have to do the minimum amount of touches, the minimum amount of clicks, and then engineer turns up. So like our website now, you do, 6 clicks, engineer turns up at your door. It's like a really simple system that not a lot of companies have got, that connects engineer to customer, or us to the customer. So the same with the managers. We're trying everything very proactive. So yeah, they're trying to schedule in time every single week, and the sales chaps as well, about actually thinking differently about how we could sell, because it's really quite common that there's just this endless cycle, this hamster wheeling that happens every day, and I absolutely hate it. And then going back to 7 engineers to, more and more, the biggest thing I did that was different was every Wednesday I would make sure I had a day where I'd quote Monday, Tuesday, quote Thursday, Friday, but the Wednesday was the day where you actually go and do something a little bit different. Like I'd take a van to the local, somewhere picturesque, like a reservoir. I took a photo, put it on Facebook, and start look at marketing and branding and making the business look a lot more professional. And that all started by building in time in the diary to then go out and find these opportunities, or go and do something that you wouldn't ordinarily do, because you'll end up starting a Monday the same way you start every Monday. If you don't actually do something different, nothing different will happen. So that was quite important that we did that. I think the biggest growth areas we've had with AI recently is all because you just sit there and you go, what can I do differently? Or what would be different? Or how could we take a customer's current journey with us fitting a boiler, and how can we simplify it to a point that it's just too easy for them to use us?
Yeah, I mean, I'd take my van to a reservoir, but I'll probably have to get it recovered. So, not worth the risk, is it? You know what I mean?
Is there, obviously growing a business to that size, there must have been obviously massive challenges. Has there been any points where you thought, right, this is getting a bit too much now?
Not really, no. I quite enjoy it, and it's like a hobby, I suppose.
Yeah,
it's probably the closest
it's like
thing.
That, it's like that for me here. Yeah. And I like it when Keiran puts sugar on the windows. Do you know what I mean? She's got me in. Do you know what I mean? That's why. That's my excuse. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think considering, you never had it in your sort of mindset to take the business over and grow it, you've done really well.
It's incredible. It's
where was that change in? Where was the flick of the switch where you thought? Did it just gradually happen, or you thought, right, I'm going to take this here
to the next level? Is there a point where you go, actually, we've got to go to the next level now? But boom, like that. Was it a change, or was it, like you say, gradual?
No. I don't know. It's really tricky to explain. But I've not. I never had a different feeling to it. You just feel a sense that you just want to do the job and do it as best you can. And then when you start to see things benefiting, or things changing, or more customers coming on, it kind of motivates you without you saying it to do more.
You was on the tools, weren't you? You said you was on the tools when you took over for your dad. So how long before after you took over your dad, and then how long was it before you got off the tools, basically? Do you know what I mean? And decided, actually, I'm gonna push it from in the office and advertising and that. How long was that before you decided to make that leap?
I was from the apprenticeship. It was around 4 years from when I was 16. Then I spent about 4 years on the road as an installer. The last year, doing a bit of servicing and a little bit of part fitting. But actually, when my dad left, he was full time quoting and sort of managing the business.
Oh right, so you took over that role of it anyway, right?
So
okay.
So that on that when I went out and did some quotes and then did a bit more, but there was a little bit more to it because. At that point, he was looking after the installer, so he'd go out and fetch and carry bricks, sand, cement. He never liked the engineers within the merchants because they're in there having a sausage roll, having a coffee, wasting
so he'd be a bit
time.
of a foreman type sort of.
Yeah, and he'd go out and he'd manage the jobs and he'd talk to the customers and he'd sell whatever it is he was selling, the boiler or whatever, and then he'd go out and and I kind of did a similar thing.
Where was that conversation when you had your dad going, Dad, I don't want to be on the tools no more, mate. I want to be doing what you're doing.
I never. No, he asked me. Yeah.
He asked you, right?
Yeah, I think he's always had a focus on making sure I had a lot of training. So I always went a lot of manufacturers courses, and I did Part P, which I didn't really have any necessity to, and stuff like that. But yeah, I there was never a point that he, it was like, oh, I want to come off the tools. I never had that desire to come off the tools. I was quite happy doing what I was doing.
You just merged into it's just merged.
Well, it was because it was supposed to be 2 weeks, and quoting. I think to quote a job is the hardest job in the whole of our industry. Not to quote it because really anybody can quote, but to quote it properly, it is.
Yeah.
To actually get the price right, to do the job where you've got margin in it, where you've managed customers' expectations, where you fit it and you deliver an invoice, they pay and they leave a good review. I think that's probably one of the hardest jobs, especially when you're not just doing combis, when you're doing houses with multiple
boilers. Yeah, so you
boilers.
have like quantity surveyors and that now within your business, or do you take on that role sort of thing, or?
Not me personally, no. I mean, we don't have quantity surveyors. We have sales or surveyors.
Yeah.
They'll go out, talk to customers, deliver a price, try and win work. Although we don't deliver prices in the house, for example, it's all just done by email. And then we have planners in the office that will plan the install work or plan the service work. But no quantities surveyors and things like that, no. So yeah, I mean, going back to the... when my dad left, you mentioned about, did I want to come off the road and all that kind of stuff. It was just like a natural progression into it. And in fact, I did miss an element of fitting when I initially came off the road, because it's what you're so familiar with and what you spent your whole college life doing.
Do you have that now though? Do you have, like, you've had fitters? Do they come off the road now with you? Do they come on and like go into a more managerial role?
Yeah. So
is that progression within the company, or just change or whatever? Does that happen a lot?
We've got an install manager who is a really good installer, and his work ethic is, he came off his bike at 100 mile an hour and broke his collarbone on Saturday. He was in work Monday. He's that kind of person that just nothing phases him. And we've got service managers the same. It's a good service engineer, honest, trustworthy person, and he looks after all of our service engineers. And then we've got an operations director, Chris, who then looks after all the managers. We've got an office manager, parts manager, that kind of stuff. And I just tend to focus on, like day to day, is predominantly enhancing the business. There's a lot of reactive stuff that goes on, which I don't particularly like reactive work. I think things, especially with install work and stuff, when engineers on the phone going, I need this part, kind of like, why could we not have preempted that problem happening, and it would have streamlined it, and they'd have been out there half a day sooner, we'd have sent the invoice sooner, we could have got another job done. Me personally, I spend a lot of time just looking after the business, trying to find new opportunities. So we started Custom Electric. We had Custom Eat for a while. There was Custom Build. We had our own bathroom brochures printed, and just like the general stuff that goes on with the business of how we're handling stock and where we're buying things from, and our marketing and PR and all kinds of things that's going on.
One big thing that you've told us that you've tested is a 4-day week, which a lot of people I think would be interested to hear how that's sort of gone. Incorporating that into your business, letting engineers just work 4 days.
Yeah, I've done that for years, mate. Always had a Monday club. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's being paid for the 5th, though, is the difference, isn't it?
So, how's that been from the start, testing it and, feedback from the engineers? And
so the reason it came about originally, the 4-day week, was that, people do say it's tricky finding good engineers. Like, you can find a lot of engineers, put ads out, there's engineers out there. Whether they're good or not, a lot of them got great lengths of experience.
Just quickly, how do you vet them?
How do we vet them? So we always have...
we have blown up an house, mate.
So myself and Chris, who I work with, we met at college, so we've been through most of the journey together. And we always set up Zoom interviews, 30 minutes long. One day I think we did 17 from 8 o'clock. Last one was at 4:30. We've probably done close to 800 Zoom interviews since the COVID boom through to current. There's been a hell of a lot like that.
And you prefer doing Zoom rather than in person?
Well, Zoom, yes, and it did work particularly well with COVID. More recently, we have asked people to come, especially if it's a bit more of a senior role or if it's a bit more bespoke, like a really seasoned engineer. Sorry if anybody's had a Zoom recently.
You're not shit. It's just that it was a more specialist role.
Well, I think location comes into it as well, because we've got engineers saying Birmingham, they've got to come all the way in, and it might be that after 2 minutes you realise you're not compatible with one another. But how do we vet them? So we have a process on the Zoom. Chris is very technically minded. If it's a service engineer, he'll go through some... because the theory is with asking basic questions as opposed to advanced questions. Because we'd ask the basic questions, because if you get them wrong, then you ain't going to get, are you? If you get the advanced ones wrong, you can kind of go, oh, well, not many people know that. So we ask really basic questions. Chris goes through servicing procedures with people, puts a couple of faults within the questions to see what the basic things about how you charge an expansion vessel properly. And if you get them kind of things right, we usually then invite you in. But we've done a lot of interviews, especially in the peak time when we were doing endless amounts of boilers and God knows what else we were doing. And we've got some, there's probably, I'd say, top 3 most hilarious in my world interviews that we've ever conducted. Am I allowed to talk about them?
Yeah, well, that's what we want.
So I there's probably more than 3, but there's 3 that stand out. So we were doing an admin position, and she, the lady, it was 12 o'clock, and they're only half an hour long, and the lady that was on says, "Oh, hello," she introduced herself, and she just like reaches for this sandwich, and then just stuffs it in her face, and then she just starts talking through the sandwich. Apologises that she's hungry. We're like, it's a 30-minute Zoom call. It ain't that difficult. I mean, how hungry are you? So that's probably number 3. Number 2, probably an electrician. So the thing with Zoom and like FaceTime, like a lot of people use it on their hold it in front of their face. And there's electricians like that, and it's obviously probably the first time he's used Zoom, or close to the first time he's used Zoom, and he's getting like halfway into the chat, like 15 minutes or so, and then the finger sails up the nose, has a good old go round, pulls it out as a look at it like that. The whole thing is like, and I'm just sitting there like, oh, this guy's forgot his camera on, and so that was probably number 2. That was it's quite funny. We cried for a few days after that one, and I think I don't know.
Did he eat it?
No, no. Luckily, no.
I mean, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. If he ate it, then you can say, "Well, Carl, mate, you failed this time." But if you like, just wipe it under a bit of carpet or something, then fair enough,
Yeah. I don't know whether this is the worst one or the funniest one, but we were quite desperate for bathroom fitters, and it was it was really hot. I remember it was really hot. It's a few years ago, and this chap had replied and said, I can only do Sundays because I'm self-employed, I work 6 days a week and I do Sunday. I was like, okay, fair enough. So I said to Chris, would you do a Sunday? Because typically we wouldn't used to do interviews and things on a Sunday. And it was around lunchtime, and this guy comes on, and he was Polish. Is it allowed to say he's Polish?
Yeah.
This Polish guy comes on. He's like, "Oh, hello," and he's like talking, chatting away. And he's in a park with a string vest on. We're like, this is a bit like funky, because he said he can only do Sunday because he has to, obviously, because he could have just done it in his van, couldn't he? The park's probably a grade down from it. Anyway, he's chatting away, and Chris, who the other director, says to him, can you stop walking around? Like, you realise you're in an interview. We won't even need to talk to you. We need you to focus.
It's mad, isn't it?
and the guy's like, oh, yeah, no problem. And the conversation gets going, and the chap says, he keeps saying we. Oh, we this, we that. And Chris says, what, you keep saying we? Who's we? We're interviewing you. And he goes, oh, let me show you, right? That's my Polish accent. turns the camera around, and there's a chap on a rug with 2 women and a colour red stripe in his hand. He's like, oh, we come as a team. I mean, we're just in tears. So I don't know. I mean, Chris was just like, boom, goodbye.
I mean, that's like, you think like it's how people conduct themselves on a Zoom call. Like, if I'm on a Zoom call, like I'm trying to, it's quite, I'm not doing interviews and stuff like, do you know what I mean? Like a business type thing. But if I was doing a job interview, any job interview, we'd always be told to turn up in a suit as a youngster, wouldn't we? Go to a job interview, smart, like, do you know what I mean? Act professional and that. But like the Zoom call thing on the phone now is just letting people, I don't know whether they're, like you say, they're forgetting they're on camera, they're forgetting their inhibitions, because it's not as personal as actually in person with somebody. And then chicken cancer red stripe while on it. What's that all about? You know what I mean? It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, I took you away from the 4-day week then, didn't I?
Oh, yeah, we
You did, yeah.
Because I think it'd be good, because you've obviously tested it, it's working for you, and any other companies out there will be able to hear sort of how you've done it and how it benefits everyone.
Sorry. So, we were talking about the 4-day week and how it came about, and it was around several things, but one was employment. And being attractive place to work, because if you can work 4 days as opposed to 5 but get exactly the same money, then it then becomes a difficult place to leave. So retention hopefully alters slightly, and it becomes an attractive place, because when you place an advert out for a new engineer, I mean, unless you're looking as an engineer, you're not really going to see the ad, are you? In some respects. So I don't know whether it's like dating as you get older. I mean, I've been married for a very long time, but you're just dealing with a fair amount of damaged goods. I don't know. Is that fair to say?
I don't know, really. Yeah.
There's always
you are. Yeah.
There's always a bit of a history to why there's been so many jobs, or why there's very few. See, the very good engineers seem to have been settled at jobs. So if we look back at the engineers that have been with us a while and where they were before, they've always had a history of being at that place for a very long time.
I mean, if you got a whore of an engineer, do you know what I mean? It's like you got to start asking questions. What's going on here? Do you know what I mean? What is wrong with this person? Why are they going from job to job to job to job, sort of thing?
I think if you by default see a CV with too many jobs on it, you just discard it because you'll just be another name on that sheet. But yeah, the 4-day week was for those reasons, and also because have you ever, like on a Saturday, been at home and you got up early, you get some, it gets about 2 o'clock, and you're like, God, I'd still be at work if I was at work, and you feel like how long an actual work day is. You don't realise, well, you do realise, but it actually becomes, I think it becomes more apparent when you're not at work and you realise I started that like hours and hours ago, but at work I'd have started and I'd still be doing it.
I think it depends. I've never looked at it that way. I think if I'm in employment, if I'm employed, I'd look at it that way, because when you're employed or you're working under a clock, sort of thing, I think time goes slower. When you work for yourself or are self-employed, and you've got to get a job done. I don't know about you, but after 1 o'clock, that time after 1 o'clock goes very, very quickly. It's like I'm running out of time here, and you actually, when you work for yourself, you want the time to slow down, as opposed to, do you know what I mean? When you're employed, you're thinking, oh, ain't got long now till we shut up and go home, blah blah blah. Do you know what I mean? But
yeah, so the 4-day week came around from the employment aspect, but also in terms of how we saw efficiencies, like how would we not have somebody at work for a whole day but still maintain the same sale each month. Like we need to a minimum number of like value of money to go out, invoices to get paid, to pay everything, pay everyone. So one area was the fact that our service engineers, especially in the summer months, job numbers are less in the summer than they are in the winter. That's true for us. So rather than doing 5 jobs Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, is to do 6 or 7 jobs, and actually 7 jobs is the normal number our engineers will do on the assumption you can get around them all in 4 days. So that then lessens slightly fuel use, and when we've got quite a lot of vans, fuel does play a big part, because you're not then driving, in between another day's worth of jobs, or driving to and from your home if you're travelling an hour to get to somewhere. So fuel use was one thing. The other thing, when it comes to an installer, you think, well, actually, how can an install? Because an install takes as long as an install takes. Now, I've been an installer, so I know how installs go. And there is definitely a difference between a self-employed installer and an employed installer. Not with everybody. Some will just want to work and get on, but there is an element that exists, and it is fair to say that some installers, there's no benefit to them if they get a job done sooner. In fact, if you're there on a Thursday and it runs into the Friday, it means you're not going to get another combi swap on the Friday. So therefore, got to come back a couple of hours in the morning. That element does exist. We've experienced that quite a lot. So the other element is to say, actually, and not expect you to do more, but a 4-day job, if we do it in 4 days, that's fine. We're still using the rule that if it does run over, we're going to we're going to treat it the Friday as a Saturday, for example, and you won't have to go back to work. But it'll become easier to manage problems, performance problems, because I don't imagine many people would want to leave a 4-day week job. So I think there's that element around it. Efficiencies in install, some days with installers, and again, I think it's fair to say that you'll get to 3 o'clock and you'll just think, I'll do it tomorrow. Whereas you think, actually, if I just got on with it, I could probably get it done. Might have to work till 5:10, but I'll get it done. We're kind of trying to switch mentality, but then in return offer 4 days for the same money.
So is that every installer's on 4-day week?
Yep.
But they're not all off on the same day?
No.
Friday, shut down. That means happening.
No.
And is that the same with the staff in-house as well?
Yeah.
The same with the office staff, etc.?
Yeah, so we did. So throughout 24, we ran a test. So we got about a year's worth of information and compared that to a similar period the year before. There were several different metrics we wanted to check it against.
Yep.
And the baseline of the fact of, did we send enough bills out the door? Because we need X amount of sales to maintain and sustain our setup. Actually, with the service engineers, we saw an increase. So the benefit was a plus for the business. And the stories so I was expecting the engineers to say, oh, it's great, I love it. And there's always a honeymoon period with these things where things work brilliantly for 3 months and they drop off a cliff. So I was like aware of all those things. Actually, some of the stories that came back, you got a sense that they were incredibly... So one person said, actually, they were going to speak to us about... He was going to get rid of his car that's on finance. and speak to us about if we didn't roll out the 4-day week, actually not naturally dropping down to 4 days because of the impact it had with him and his daughter and his wife. He's like, he wants that life. And you could tell it was genuine. Like, the guy was thinking about getting rid of his car to lessen the finance element onto him. There's another engineer, service engineer, that's set up to be a first responder. So every day that he was off on the Wednesday, he was going off training with the paramedics and getting set up. So there's some like great stories going on.
I mean, that's good of you as a company, because a lot of companies, and it shows you how you are as a company, that your installer can turn around to you and say, listen, I want to be a first responder. I might not be with you forever. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm looking to train in some other area, a different industry altogether, and you're quite supportive with that in that. Do you know what I mean? So that says a lot about you as a company and how the trust from your employees, because some people turn around and go, like some bosses, because I was always told a boss expects you to work for him for life. Like, do you know what I mean? That's what I was always told from our careers officers and that. Don't ever tell a boss that you're not going to work for him forever, because they won't want you. But you're actually supportive of your employees in that aspect of it, which goes to show a lot about you as a company, I think.
I think so. I mean, where there's probably a very faint line is apprenticeships that probably have the risk of, because that's an investable period of like 4 years, and especially with the national insurance contributions. And the other impact we'll find this year with apprenticeships is the fact that the widening of the age gaps within national minimum wage. So an apprentice that's coming out of their first year, where they then need national minimum wage, that's 20 years old, is now on nearly a 26 grand salary. And we've got a few of that kind of going on at the minute. So it is really difficult, because historically not a lot of people want to take apprentices on because of the cost and the responsibility of finding work every day and picking them up, dropping whatever it might be. But actually, this impact this is going to have from April is really significant, because it's going to be twofold.
Did you mention this on one of my posts? I remember somebody mentioning this about, because I was talking about apprentices and that, and somebody said about it. One of our posts. It might have been one of our posts. Was it one of our posts?
Don't know.
Possibly.
Yeah. So like you said, they're making it hard. It's already hard for apprentices to get jobs, and they're making it even harder now.
Yeah. So we've got, I think, 9-10 apprentices at the minute, and we've always had apprentices.
Yeah.
And I mean, we had an apprentice not so long ago that qualified, and the risk of you spend 4 years college course and qualifications, and then going off doing the off tech and all the other bits, because we fit all boilers. And we had a apprentice come in and say, I've got my gas, 2 weeks ago. I want to talk about pay, which is fine. That's normal. That's what you'd expect. But actually, they came in and asked for a salary that was really unrealistic. So it was a salary that's comparable with quite an experienced installer.
Yeah.
So rather than say no, I actually said, well, I'll tell you what we'll do on Monday, because that salary is reflective of somebody that's got experience, that is able to do more advanced jobs and more complicated jobs, and being able to do those kind of jobs, but in this kind of time frame. I said, rather than say no, on Monday, let's line a job up that we'd typically put somebody of that salary on, and
see
if you can do it, then great, we'll pay it you. Anyway, he couldn't do it, and then he left. So it's like the current apprentices with the additional costs. I think was it £68,000 it's going to cost us extra in 12 months on our apprentices, because of the national insurance contributions and the widening of the age gaps on the national minimum wage. So 25 to 26, it's going to cost us about 70 grand on apprentices alone.
Bloody hell.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money, isn't it?
Yeah, all these costs add up, don't they? So the 4-day week then, after testing it, are you going to keep that? That's one question I was going to ask. Do people now ask to work that extra day as overtime?
So yeah, that was an option. So because we've got a Saturday rate, like if you fit a boiler, I think it's $350 or something like that. We've got a rate for doing bits on Saturday. I think we pay £35 a service. Bearing in mind we supply the van, the fuel, all that kind of, we schedule it and all that kind of stuff. But so we were thinking the day that they're not working, there is the option for them to come in and work and earn more, because some of the engineers, in fact, one of the engineers that was on the trial said, I'll just work more because I want more money. But after the trial, he said, no, I don't want the 4-day week because I've got to spend it with my family. It's really crazy how much of an impact that 4-day week had on people. And as I said, I'm quite aware that people are going to naturally want to tell good stories because they want to go, it's going to benefit me if we crack on with this thing. But yeah, so that's predominantly how the 4 day
So you'd
week.
advise, yes, you're going to keep that in the 4 day week.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's probably not a lot of people doing that. So it's interesting to hear it and to have the statistics that it works and you're happy to keep it going.
Yeah, we had at least 12 months worth of data from the trial that we ran. And we saw an increase in service and repair. It was fairly neutral on install. So we only had one engineer that was down but that could be a little bit circumstantial, because the thing with install is a surveyor sales person could look at a job, and that's 3 days, but it's actually a 4 day job, and that could negatively impact what somebody earns off the back of install, and that can happen. So you've got to kind of take a few bits into account with it. But overall, as a business, we were invoicing about the same, if not a smidgen more, on a 4 day week.
Do your engineers, they take your gas safe as well? So they're on your gas safe company?
Yeah, gas, oil, LPG.
Do you put your engineers through gas safe as well?
Yeah, and pay for it. It used to be a thing, I think, years ago. It'd be like, we just put somebody through their training at however much you want, and then they end up leaving, and you're like, oh, that's a bit of a kick in the butt. But now it's more about things that you get a bit frustrated about. So we spent a lot of money over the last year on training engineers with their F-gas because of electrification of heating systems with heat pumps and air conditioning that we're fitting. And I mean, some people said to us, actually, can we come and do the F-gas as well? Because we just wanted a select number of engineers on it. And we said, oh yeah, you can. And then they have to do the oil. And so people are actively asking for a lot more qualifications. And one person that left us actually September last year, which is no fault of the business, it openly had a circumstance problem that's probably not worth me talking about. But we put him through loads, like oil, other bits and pieces. And he was a service engineer, so there wasn't a massive need to. And then he literally left. And it was thousands. It's not just the cost of the course, though. It's the cost of like the hotel, the money that you're not earning when they're there. You factor all these costs in. It's actually like threefold what the engineer would perceive it to be. So yeah, we have a responsibility. We've got to pay for training, right?
Have you thought about opening up your own school ever? A lot of companies do that, don't they? Open up their own training schools.
Yeah, British Gas got their own, and there's a company down south somewhere that I think either Rotapiece, or they had some media attention around the fact that they didn't have to train their engineers at a centre. They could just do it in-house themselves because of the... I think they ended up losing it, though.
Right.
But I think it's only British Gas and the local training places you can go to. But it's probably not worth us doing that. I mean, we've got an area, our office, where we've got like an onboarding process for new engineers. So when new engineers start, there's like health and safety courses, company handbook, who to call when there's a problem, what to do when you're sick, all them kind of basics. But then there's also a technical where they work on the boilers and get basic confidence that we know that what they're doing, they're safe and that they operate safely.
How do you find, obviously, with that many engineers, you obviously get people that don't turn up, they're calling sick. Like, how do you cope with that? Like, would you say it's quite a big problem?
The more
letting customers down.
Yeah, a little bit. I think the more people there are, the less of a problem it is because you've got more
cover.
Okay, yeah.
Because where you've got people paired up, you think actually, well, they're not. They're on a full heat. Somebody's going to be on their own. Not great, but this other job's a problem job that we need to sort out. You've got a lot more flexibility with more people. So I think looking back when we had, say, 7 engineers and somebody's off, you're like, oh my God, you've got nobody to do this job. You didn't turn up last week because the other job was overrunning, and it's like a spiralling problem.
That's a good point, actually. The more engineers you've got, the more you've got to cut. Like, if they can squeeze another job in to get that,
that's
exactly. A good point.
It's same with service engineers. I think was it the first Monday in February is like National Pull a Sickie Day. I don't know.
Is it? When's this?
It's gone, so you can't call in sick.
Yeah, can't call yourself sick. But so it's like National Sickie Day. And somebody mentioned it in a WhatsApp group that the Monday coming up was, and we were like, nah, it can't be. 5 people called in sick.
Really?
It's usually high. There's usually somebody off sick every day. But yeah, 5 people on Monday, the sickie day. So it's actually, there's some truth in it.
They've been influenced by social media. I'll try this. You know what I mean? Some people just do it and they go, oh, it's National Sickie Day.
You must have had some bad engineers come through the door. Like, You did mention earlier, actually, like although you don't want to share anything bad that's happening in your company, but you can't stop human errors. What issues have you had on jobs with engineers?
You had any perverts? The other ones that they go for the old knicker drawers and all that. Have you ever had them? You had to pull in and say, "Hang on a minute, why is there dirty fingerprints all over her chest of drawers?" Have you ever had that?
I don't think it's been that bad. We've had a couple of crazy scenarios. I'll probably start the story by saying they've been dealt with and the person doesn't work here anymore.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, we had somebody. They were with us on a trial. They'd gone through all the onboarding. Everything was fine. We do DBS checks on them. We were told we can't do it, or we shouldn't do it enhanced because they're not in that line of work. So we just do everything we're supposed to do, and they're obviously vetted by us. We speak to everybody personally, so you get a feel for them and you know what they say. But you never really know somebody, do you? Then it's servicing a boiler. This engineer. Old customer comes in, the boiler's in there, and goes out. Customer has a need to walk straight back in again, and they've got bloody customer's money jar in their hand. Horrendous. I was in absolute shock.
It's a stain on your company, isn't it?
I know, and that's another problem with the industry is that actually everybody that's out in a van is representing your business. So no matter how hard you work as an individual, as a person, or as a group of people, actually one person can ruin everything for so many people.
We don't have them around there. They only have to go on like social media these days as well. Just and it just spreads. Like you just get one bad review like that.
We had it actually with another. So that was dealt with straight away, and obviously we don't tolerate a lot of business just won't tolerate it. And we weren't even sure or not. And I don't really care if it's a HR disaster or they come at me for something. I really don't care. He's not working here. We've got a suspicion of theft and things going on. And that's the other thing that's changed every year is HR. Years ago, it used to be, it's not working out, see you later.
Yeah.
And give us your keys and off you go. But now, is it a process? Harder, It's like renting properties out and tenant rights and all these things that go on. It becomes really quite difficult to actually run efficiently, protect your customers, protect your margin as a business. You know, the amount of hoops you've got to jump through now as a business to make sure you're on the right side of the legal law.
I know, because we have to protect everyone. We have to protect the people who are bad as well, aren't we? In case we hurt their feelings. Do you know what I mean? Let's not get onto that one. But that's the sort of like world we're in at the moment, isn't it? Now, where you have to take into account the perpetrator's feelings.
Yeah, and that's what a problem. I mean, personally, I just tend to act, but it becomes a little bit restrictive because when you have situations where somebody isn't working. Maybe there's an accusation of theft, or they're just not working in line with you. Especially when you think about people that are quite negative. They're the worst type of infectious people. We've actually had some good installers that have a good skill set of install. They're actually a very negative person, and we just asked them to move on as well.
Yeah.
I think actually one of the best things we did, because we're taking on a business that had people already. And some of them were just so stuck in a rut with their mindset.
Yeah.
And when you come along with all these ideas and automation and tech and all these things, there's just nobody really gets on board with it. It's actually, we really had a clean out of people that used to work at the company that no longer work here anymore. We actually found that negative people that will have a new engineer on and say, oh, it's rubbish here. Oh, they expect you to do this. Oh, I'm not getting this done today. Oh, how do they expect that to done in 2? That kind of like mentality is probably the worst type of people.
I like the way you brought that up because obviously that we went to the tool theft rally on last Monday, and the thing I don't like is when they'll turn around. We put loads of posts out, etc., and you'll get people go, oh, it won't make a difference. Do you know what I mean? What's the point? They're not going to do anything like that. And you think to yourself, maybe you think that, keep it to yourself, because your opinion on it could influence somebody else. Do you know what I mean? Just your opinion on your comment could influence somebody else. Go, we don't need it. You don't need that sort of negativity.
Yeah, one bad egg in there.
That one bad egg can cause a few others to go, well, actually, he might have a point, where they wasn't thinking that way. And that would probably operate the same within a business. If you've got one negative engineer and he starts saying, other people are getting on and thinking, oh, hold on a minute. Do you know what I mean? I get where you're coming with that one.
And you can actually see, you can see that when, like, we had a really good apprentice who worked with somebody else for a very long period of time, who'd been with us like 30 years, and they went off with this bad apple that's no with us long with us anymore, and you can almost see the change in that person's demeanour, their enthusiasm, their willingness to want to just get on with stuff. And it's that like dangerous employee mentality. I watched a reel the other day, somebody saying, oh, when, you know, if you're an employee at work, just go and do the absolute minimum, turn up the latest and leave the soonest. I thought that's the most stupid advice you could ever wish to have, because not everybody wants to dedicate their lives running a business and trying to grow a business. Not everybody wants that commitment. They've got other things going on, which is fair enough. So the next best thing to earn as much as possible and have a decent life is to actually put a lot of effort in at the work you're at, stand out as being the best, and then demand extra money for it. Because when we've got really good engineers that work with us, you know, when they're really special and they work hard and they're switched on and they please customers and things get invoiced, paid and whatever, then they come and say, I want a bit extra. You're like, you've got to retain that person. You've got to pay a bit extra because you don't want them going somewhere else. But when somebody's lazy or they turn up late and they do the minimums and all this stuff they said on the reel the other day, when they come in and say, I want extra, you're just like, well, you ain't worth a sausage.
No,
and
that's it.
so,
Yeah.
You know, it's like, you know, as I said, it's not, you know, if you're not for this whole lifestyle of self-employedness, as you're aware of the relentless pursuit of finding jobs, you know, sending invoices, sending quotes, dealing with customers, suppliers, all that kind of stuff, then the next best thing is to be really, really good employee with a great outlook and a great work ethic that makes you stand out. Because the minute somebody gets sense like you want to leave or move on, or you want a bit of extra money, it becomes significantly easier to get hold of extra money because you become indispensable.
How do you deal with
good advice?
A lot of businesses struggle with cash flow. So how's your payment process? Do you take the money straight away after the job, or?
So cash flow has been probably one of the biggest impactful things that we've noticed through growth, because when we were smaller, we had so much control over like the jobs and what we said to the customer and what the engineer did and when he finished and when we sent the bill and we spoke to the customers, everything happy, and they'd pay straight away. So we never took money up front. We never do take money up front, or never did take money up front. But as we grew, cash flow became a real thing because we had a wage bill of like a couple of £100,000 a month, and we were spending a couple of £100,000 more at Wolseley's and places like that. And actually, you could find it in a day that your wages and Wolseley go out, and you're like 400,000 quid, poof, like that, gone. And you know, if you weren't on top of jobs and project jobs, and it was great when you had combis, it was bill. But when you're on the more project things, full eatings, we did a hotel recently, stuff like that. Actually, that has such an impact, and it really restricts. Like, it takes all your labour time. And you can only bill it at certain intervals. I've always found smaller, quicker jobs better to bill, more reactive with more money in them. And growing from, you know, where we were to all the stages through, when we probably broke the 100 employee mark, I think that cash flow became a real problem for us. And I think it's the same with I know a few other businesses in the UK that grew a plumbing business. Perhaps not mention their name, but they went bust because I assume it's the same thing. You start to lose sight of what it's actually costing you to get a border on the wall. You start to lose sight of what your actual cost of sale is. Like, what is it costing you to operate daily and hourly?
A lot of people
monthly?
don't know.
And actually understanding that, which is the thing I mentioned about my wife earlier, that's come in and start to map all this out and forecast it. We do meetings about it, and not a huge fan of meetings, but these ones are pretty useful. That's helped us a lot to be able to structure what we do next, and rather than react to, oh, bloody hell, we need 200 grand by the end of the week to pay this bill. We actually, the things are forecasted and stepped out a lot easier. But cash flow is the kind of thing that will just knock you off your feet, because you get 2 or 3 things in a row and you haven't been paid by that job because of these funny little circumstances, and then you end up like, well, I'm in a bit of a sticky position. So we found that last year. You know, 24, the work volume went a bit quiet. You know, we were probably spending too much on acquiring new work. It's why I've done a lot of learning about the Google ads and the Facebook ads and stuff like that they don't particularly work very well. And we're not as big as a company as we were. You know, we actually make more profit on, you know, less than 100 people than we do on 200 people. I'm sure if you you ran the 200 better and you understood the cost of sale and you understood the things we understand now, that'd be different. But we grew to that.
Yeah.
Some bits didn't grow with it, and then we've had to go down, come back a bit.
Yeah, but you
learn
understand that, and you have to go through that to then probably grow again. If you're going to grow again, you know where you went wrong before, or what improvements you have to make. So
how was that cutting down process?
So we, at the time, we were doing a bit of British Gas. That's the bit we cut out. So British, yeah. I know they're probably not terribly popular, but they were a stream of revenue, and if we were doing a certain number with them, it made financial sense. The reason it stopped is because they said to us, "Oh, it's a bit quiet," and we said, "Oh, it's okay. We can ride the summer being quiet." They said, "Oh, there's no plan for it to go back up in the winter." And we know if we're below the minimum number, you just can't operate. We need a manager and an auditor and all these things that they expect from us. And yeah, it answered its own question. If it's not going to go over X amount of jobs a week, then it won't financially work out. So we stopped that, and we were doing a little bit of work for another large organisation, mainly service work, that you kind of like re-look at and think, actually, we is this financially a good thing to do? And it's like readdressing all them areas of the business and actually working out that you're private, domestic, margin controlled is the stuff to focus on, and the other stuff's just the nice to have.
Yeah, some people come too reliant, didn't they, on... It's good you had the private domestic work, because some people go straight into work for a big organisation and that's their main income. So if they lose that, then it's obviously a struggle. I suppose you've cut back that side of it and just focusing more on... Yeah,
there's always been a focus on like organic, our own marketing, branding, vans, uniform, our own jobs. Like that's always naturally grown. And our boiler numbers have, went from, I don't know... Maybe we're doing like 40 a year. We'll do over 1,000 this year with that side of things. But the other side of it was more creating connections with commercial customers such as British Gas and a couple of others. It just didn't really work out. It doesn't really suit our, kind of model of what we need to be coming in versus what it actually costs us to put someone on the road.
So in that period, then you obviously had to let people go. How was that? Sort of, how did everyone take that?
I mean, it's not the best thing to do.
So I got to work 5 days a week again. I would like boss, please. Do you know what I mean? Were they fighting for like their roles? Were they, or was it?
I don't think so, because I think it'd been quiet from those streams of work for a while, and I think a few people had already sussed other options out, which is good for them. But yeah, I mean, it's a horrible thing to sit down with somebody and just essentially say, we can't carry on. We just haven't got the commitment that we had before, and I'm really sorry. Do you want to look for another job? And we'll support you as best we can. But you've got to take the rough with the smooth, and you've got to be, see the highs and the low all as a bit of learning. And I'd rather learn and do things. I mean, I've made a lot of mistakes, lost a lot of money, but equally we've made a decent amount of money, and we make a decent profit. And I think if you're not making mistakes, then you're not learning, you're not developing your company. And even today, I'd take a risk on something like the phones with the AI and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, the AI, yeah. Can we get her on? Can we put the AI secretary on? Can we listen to her? Can we agree? Just like get the AI on.
You've got a bit of a thing for the AI lady, right?
Get the AI lady on. Can we get her on?
Do you want some context around the AI lady?
Yeah, give some context.
So I've been looking for about a year to how to get AI on the phone. So a system that answers it, behaves relatively like a human, and can book things in. So only quite recently, a few firms have come up because some of the technology around that area started to advance and change and develop. And I'd had a few video calls recently with some companies that can basically offer a service where it sounds as human-like as it can be based on the technology we've got. So there is an element of roboticness in there. But the good thing about it is it can actually book into your CRM system. So if you've got a CRM system, chances are this type of system will book into it through an open API. I don't know if yours has got that kind of thing. But you can it can actually make human-like commands into a CRM system, can raise a job. The other thing it can do is it can debt chase. So if something gets to a certain, it can call the customer and go, "Oh, hey, it's so and so from Custom Heat. Is everything okay with the work? Did you receive our invoice? Yeah. Oh, let me just text you the link. It's got an integration with Stripe. It takes a Stripe link. The customer pays it off. In the CRM, it pays it off through into Xero. it does all kinds of other things, such as you could take all your boiler services from 23 from the whole of 2023 that didn't come back to you in 2024 or 24 into 25, whatever. Put them in a spreadsheet, and then you give it to AI. AI calls them, says, "Oh, hey, we noticed you had your boiler service in 23, but you didn't come back in 24. Would you like to book in?" "Oh, no." They can offer a deal. "Oh, well, we'll give you 10% if you book now," like if they sense that they're not going to book. And then it can actually take hold of that booking and book it straight in the diary. Other things we're looking at with AI is service engineer on site calls a dedicated number, reads out part number or description, reads out labour time, it produces a quote and sends it straight away. There's like whole endless streams of ways in which you can integrate AI into work. So shall I play Lucy? Because you've had a thing for Lucy.
Let's play Lucy, and then we can all agree.
Well, the thing to remember is that this is the very first version, so I'd imagine in like 3 months it's going to sound actually slightly better because you can change the tone and
all sounds good
how
to
it
me.
answers and all kinds of stuff.
He likes the first version.
Yeah, the first version
Don't
seemed
change it.
absolutely fine to me.
But the idea was that we were going to look to AI to do the out of hours, because at the minute customers just get an answer machine message.
Yeah.
As AI will be able to field calls, send problems to managers, put stuff in the diary. So here's Lucy. So this is version 1. So don't judge too much, okay?
Hi, this is Lucy from Custom Heat. How can I assist you today? I'm your AI voice agent, here to help with booking or rescheduling appointments, handling emergencies, or answering any other questions you may have.
What lipstick you got on, Lucy?
You wanted to talk longer, didn't you?
Can you get her to say anything?
You can, yeah. It works on a knowledge base, so you could literally...
You get like 2.5 minutes there.
Yeah.
You can get 2.5 minutes of Lucy speaking to me.
You could put in the knowledge base anything that's running around in your mind right now, and she would answer it back. But you'd have to, or almost have added that.
I mean, if it's an AI robot, like I see these AI robots all the time. Is it cheating? Do you know what I mean? Is it? It's artificial, isn't it? You know what I mean? I'm joking. But Lucy does sound very attractive to me. Do you know what I mean?
Are you going to create like an
Wait,
image for Lucy?
What about if your customer actually hits on Lucy? Has she got a response?
Well, so we're building a knowledge base, so maybe we need to factor some of that in. But
what about, right, as we're on the AI trail, AI engineers, do you think they will become a thing?
I think we're too premature.
That's
in that.
right,
I think I would be with Lucy as well.
I think it's at the stage where it's just. I think anything's possible, but I don't know. Let's see. I mean, there's so much advance going on in that side of the world right now that that I think anything can be possible. I mean, there's the perception that a robot couldn't do a technical job. Well, I'm sure that.
Well, think about it. A boiler could become AI in the end, couldn't it? You think about all like BCB and but the boiler would just turn around and still go, I know what's wrong here.
Yeah, that'd be good.
I'll fix myself. And then everyone would be like, hang on a minute. The AI boiler's attacked. The AI air source. He sorted himself out.
Imagine if it could fault find itself.
What was wrong.
Yeah, imagine if it could fault find itself, the boiler.
Well, they probably
That'd
will.
be powerful,
well, they can, can't they? The boilers can tell you what's wrong with them to an extent, can't they?
But I think that's already slightly exists because some manufacturers have, and I know some nationals have, the ability to offer their customers a plan that allows them to see whether there's a fault and what the fault code is. So you could be at work and the national could get a message that says this board's got
They've been doing it years.
Yeah.
Intergas done it. I think with I don't know if it was Tower Hamlets Council. You'd like or a council in London could tell what was wrong with a particular boiler in a property because it would show and it would go to the office. I think it's been around for a bit, so it can only improve, can't it? And then maybe make your service engineers' jobs easier because they know what they're going to exactly straight away. Yeah,
and that's the issue with heat pumps, because an element of heat pump work is unskilled.
Yeah,
you could get the decorator fitting a part on a heat pump.
He's only gone on the old painters and decorators, isn't he? He's only jumped
picked the lowest trade.
No, that's
what he said.
No, listen. Hey, they're not the lowest of trades. Come on, don't, because we're friends with decorators and plumbers, painters, aren't we?
I didn't mean it like that.
I know what you're saying, but unskilled. Yeah, unskilled, as in they're not mechanically minded. Or whatever,
that's the issue with going from fitting gas boilers, which is a good thing because you need the qualification. People moan, I've got to go every 5 years, but actually that's validating how much you're paid, how much you can charge.
Are you still gas safe?
Sorry?
Are you still gas safe?
Oh no, my gas safe expired years ago.
Did you not
I've been
renew it?
off the tools for 15 years.
Did you not
Definitely
renew
not
it?
renewing gas
No,
safe.
okay.
Oh, bloody no.
What boilers do you fit? Do you have a specific boiler, or depends what the customer wants?
So we fit one specific type of boiler,
Yeah.
and that's because of there's a reason around it.
Because you get to go on holidays with the company every year.
Well, actually,
Yeah,
no,
you did,
no. We got offered to go on a holiday trip, but it's not really my thing, if I'm honest with you.
No.
No,
You burn a bit, yeah.
I return to dust, or I like planning holidays when I can plan them. Like turning up on the happy bus, going to the local travel lodge or whatever it is not really my thing.
Yeah.
But yeah. Sorry, what was the question?
What boilers do you
what
fit?
boilers?
Oh,
you
what
fit?
boilers we fit? The story around boilers. So we did fit Valent for many, many, many years. And I've only ever fitted a Valent boiler myself as an installer, worked on many of them. My dad started fitting them in the 80s with the Sign 18 and the VCWs, the VUWs and all that. Great boilers. But as they progressed in from the EcoMax into the EcoTech, we started to get a few issues. My dad had left, obviously, and I was sort of dealing with Valent, and we were getting a lot of issues where our engineers were going out going, oh, this is debris, when it's F75 fault. It's actually the pressure sensor was in the bottom of the boiler, it was just getting full a little bit. And you'd go out there, you'd flush, like customer would ring up, oh, I'm not happy, you haven't flushed my system properly. They were in the days where we were actually power flushing every single system. So we'd go back out again and re-power flush the whole system, and we'd use the little meter and the tester, and we'd evidence the fact that it's this versus the tap water and all the other things you have to do. But I didn't still go out and blame the installer. So I got really frustrated about it.
We went through that, yeah.
And I went to a quote in Coventry, and we were like out and out Valent, like Valent underpants on the lot, like we were proper Valent installers. And I went to a quote in Coventry, and the customer said, oh, I want a Worcester Bosch boiler. You can get the 10-year warranty, can't you? I was like, yeah, we get a 10-year warranty. Anyway, we were not Worcester up, and I rang Worcester up, and I said, oh, we need to quote on one of your boilers, but we want the longer warranty. The customer's adamant on it, and they're like, oh no, there's a waiting list to be an accredited installer. I was like, what? And a waiting list? Because with the other issue I had with Valent, a lad that worked with us for a couple of years went to set up on his own, and when you put our postcode into their search for function on their website to find and install it, brought him up above us. And I'm like, we've been Valent for like donkey's years. And then they ended up like their sister. We just fell out. And anyway, a few months later, Worcester called me back in and said, do you want to come on as a gold member, as it was back then? And I actually went on, and they showed me around the factory, and I sat down and they did a sales and marketing course. Like, this is how we want to sell Worcester boilers. And they really like spent that day invested in me, and I came out of it probably the most energetic I've been in like years. I was like, bloody hell, this is amazing. I know all their products. I know how to sell them better, and I love them kind of courses where you learn more and feel like you can put them skills to the test. So ever since that point, then we have fitted Worcester Bosch boilers, and we've been really well looked after by the people at Worcester. They've helped us a lot from the business's point of view. So one of the fundamental things of going from lower, they said, oh, have you considered finance? Have you considered doing this and that with your website?
Yeah.
So in the very early days when everything was like, moving quite quickly, they played quite a part in that. They were a very supportive, good manufacturer. And I felt like it was part of a club, because with Valent, you ring them up and go, oh, yeah, I'm going to fit one of your boilers at some point in 2027. They're like, oh, yeah. I'll put your name on the website. Whereas with Worcester, it was almost like a boys' club. Well, it wasn't like a boys, but you know what I mean? It's like a club where you needed to be invited in, and when you were in, they spent a bit more time and effort with you, and they set you up properly, and they gave you a training course, and do you know what I mean? So been really, really loyal to Worcester Bosch. I wouldn't really fit anything else unless anything disastrous happened, but that's... Yeah. And then we do their heat pumps, we do their AC units. They've got so many... Which is another good thing. They've got so many products off the back of the boilers that, especially with being a heating engineer, if you diversify into heat pumps, you fit the Bosch boiler, fit the Bosch heat pump, fit the Bosch air conditioning unit. In the summertime, you a demand for, I don't know if you guys are doing AC, but they do AC units and they do the training and they do the F-gas for it. So complete package.
Do you offer finance for installs?
Yes. So finance, I probably wouldn't say there's a huge uptake. I think it's more the perception that offering finance wins your work. I think better salespeople win your work. But finance, and we don't do that much on it. We've got our own. We're FCA, we've got the full licence. We've got our own directly with Navuna. And then we're also on the Worcester Bosch scheme, where they've set up all their... If you're an accredited installer, you can go and actually go onto their finance as well, and they make it easy for you. But yeah, finance. I mean, for us, our kind of target customer. We did a thing with a mosaic tool where we put in like 1,000 boilers that we fitted into a tool, and then off the back of it built out this. I think it was Experium, powered by Experium. It built out this mosaic tool that's profiled your type of customer. So when it comes to marketing and awareness and stuff like that, you could target certain areas. And ours came up with like people in the Cotswolds with loads of money. It's basically like the shortened version of what our customer type looks like. So we don't do huge amounts on finance. Probably more on 0%. So people with money that want to keep the money in their bank. But the 9.9% and the interest bearing stuff is not as probably high as you'd expect it to be. It doesn't form a massive part of our sales each month, finance. So
That's cool. What are your plans for the future then, Custom Heat?
You got family, you got kids, you got
So married for just over 10 years.
Yeah.
But we've been together for about 16. I've got 2 little boys, 7-year-old and a 4-year-old.
Would they follow in your footsteps into the business, do you think, one day?
Possibly, if they wanted to. If they wanted to. It'd be nice if they did, but I don't want that to be their understanding of it, because I don't want it to bring around a level of complacency.
Yeah.
And I don't want them to be...
want them to be their own men.
Yeah, and I wouldn't want them to do it unless I was comfortable that they could do it.
Yeah,
and they had the drive and the determination and the focus to want to actually to do it, because it's not a simple job. You think of plumbing, like if you sell Rolex watches, they're all like ultra high margin, sell a couple a month, spend the rest of your time, at home or shopping. Whereas in the plumbing world, it's like, there is margin in stuff, but you need the multiples to really make money. You need large volume of things to really, buy decent cars, houses, holidays, all them kind of things. So, and if you want to like maintain that, it's not a walk in the park,
Yeah.
Especially for the youngsters, and that's why I intentionally won't talk in front of them about work or the businesses or anything like that. It's because I don't want them to just think, oh, well, I can do what I want because I'll end up.
Yeah.
My dad was the same with me. I don't think he ever mentioned to me about taking on Custom Heat ever. I don't think and it just naturally never really. He didn't think about it too much. It's such an odd thing. So
I'm sure. I said to you before. I'm sure your dad would be proud of what you've done with Custom Heat, because taking it into the next level, if you like, in business is
very hard. Yeah.
It's very hard, but it's a very good achievement. You know what I mean? Like, I'll tip my hat to you in what you've done, and like how you've got to where you got. I think it's good. Makes me feel a bit inferior, to be honest. But like we've all got our own ambitions and goals, and you've got us, and you've strived for it. So yeah, well done.
Yeah. In terms of goals and what's next, I don't really set goals, to be honest. You just hope the work keeps coming in. If the work keeps coming in, I'll keep employing, and we'll
fair enough. Yeah.
And if we've got our structure right and we've got the right people in place, we should do all right out of it. But I've always been a bit funny. Have you ever watched Dragon's Den? They go in and I've got this year plan, and year 1 I'm going to do this, year 2. I'm like, how the hell do you know that?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm all about forecasting and stuff, but I mean, it's just a bit pie in the sky, isn't it, in most cases?
I think with the heating industry in general, though, it's very unpredictable, isn't it? From on the actual tools to actually maybe like forecasting business. I think you can never. That's why I always say plumbing heating engineers. People always say, "Oh, you can never get a good plumber or like reliable." Blah, 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 but sometimes they don't know how a job's going to go. You can't predict something. You uncover something or other that could push you on a day and that. And I think that's probably just the whole industry in a general, isn't it? Because you can't forecast it, maybe. Or maybe I'm completely wrong.
Yeah, I just live on the hope that the work carries on, the marketing's working ahead of things like AI and technology, and aware of what's going on. Read a lot into the industry and publications and books, magazines. I'm on the members panels for different things that go on. Try and get as involved as possible so you're completely informed about stuff. And hopefully things like the 4-day week and AI and stuff play a positive part in everybody's life. And if anybody wants to talk about the 4-day week, that's thinking about it, then just give me a shout, because they're welcome to come up and I'll show them what we know, and sharing that knowledge, especially in the construction industry, which is not very common at all. With the 4-day week. Hopefully it works out for us long term. We've trialed it, and hopefully the long term picture's beneficial.
Nice. Before we go then, what's the key for anyone that's sort of wanting to build a trades business? What would you say the key things are to building a successful trades business? What do you need in place or need to do?
I think so if we look at whatever our strongest points are in terms of what brings work in that people pay and we've got margin in, it's all about making sure that your business is different in some way, and very, very good. So with us, we're different in a way that we have a lot of reviews, like 4,000, maybe 5,000 reviews. So that in itself instills a lot of confidence in customers. So starting to build in reviews where people can go on and go, actually, these people are worth more because they've had 4,000 people that say so. Whereas this guy over here, who's £100, £200 cheaper, well, he's only got 2 reviews and they're from his mouth. Like building trust with customers, I've always tended to, as well with our marketing or branding or PR, is actually, and I know it costs time and I know it costs money, but it's always worked that I've got a professional firm in to either do the video in, the photography, because when somebody professional does something like that your customer sees, it represents you, and imagery and your marketing will sell you better than you could sell yourself. Like you could go into somewhere, you can't tell somebody you're good. The best way is to show them without showing them in a way that they think they're being shown. So platform, professional van, professional website, professional call answering service, every step that before a customer has to even make contact with you, if that's seamless, easy to use, professional, instills confidence, then customers will naturally come through the door. Because a lot of plumbing firms at the minute, I don't know if you guys, but a lot of plumbing firms, you've got to ring them up and wait for them to answer. They might not. Whereas, with ourselves, you just go on, click 6 clicks, and an engineer will turn up at your house. It's like simplifying a lot of processes using automation, technology.
Clicks. You just want your customers to be like the Fonz, don't you? And say, and then you're there.
He's thinking after 6 clicks will Lucy turn up.
Yeah. Robbie wants her number, by the way.
Yeah, no, I think it's been a great conversation. I've
Very
enjoyed
interesting.
it.
Yeah, enjoyed that. Very good.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us, mate. Thanks very much for joining us. And
Thank you, Lincoln.
Look forward to seeing how you progress in the future.
Up the motorway, I thought you were about to say.
I don't know. Don't forget the dart charge.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure you can afford it if you get a fine though.
Cheers, Lincoln.
It's all right. Thanks for having me. I've got about 4,000 messages now.